Been another week. That's something, right? Let's have 10 seconds for the week that has just passed. Thank you. All answers in life can be found in silence. That's probably the only decent bit of advice I shall divulge on this video. So, thanks for watching. It sounds like a contradiction as well, right? But I don't think it is. I think there is a truth in it. You got to feel the silence to find it, but you just realize that all of your worries and doubts and misgivings and impressions in general, all of your scheming, this is what it amounts to. And really, there's an underappreciated grace in that fact. What a relief, you know? It's just like, it is a breath of fresh air to just indulge the silence. Anyway, I had a vid planned to release, but I am in a copyright claim dispute over it, so I'm not at liberty to put it out there yet. And typically enough, in my infinite wisdom, I recorded a real talk vid adding to the impressions and insights potentially regarding that video. So that has become somewhat null and void as of this moment. So here we are. This is a subject I wanted to bring up anyway, so whilst I did want to let it sit a bit longer, fuck it, let's just go for it. The colossal bullshitter, or the mountebank bullshitter, if you're not sure what a mountebank is, it is a braggart, essentially, if we bring it down. Somebody who boasts, likes to detail their wild accolades and successes and whatnot. And this has admittedly come up recently in my mind because I think I've encountered yet another one of these relentless bullshitters. And I think this is a very male thing. I'm not quite sure on that. I'm sure there is a female equivalent, but as I'm talking about male bonding and how men try to, find intimacy with one another, it is pretty exclusive to that. But I would be intrigued to hear what the equivalent would be. I have a theory, which I may get to, because where a guy will, I'll try to get to it now quickly, where a guy might boast about his, say, financial success or his worldwide travels and things like that, the property he owns, the bitches he's fucked, I think women would lie about this in a different way, probably in how charitable they are or caring in general, like how they go out of their way to, or be self-sacrificial and this type of thing. So they might boast about this as a way to supposedly enhance their image. So it's a similar type of lying style, but it's done for a different reason, mainly because it's more about the collective and how the collective views them. Whereas for guys, it's more about standing out as an individual. That's my theory on it. But I wanted to bring it up just to inquire as to how common this is. Sure, it's from a speculative and conjectural viewpoint, but at the same time, I'm interested to know if other guys encounter these types, because it's happened a few times in my life. When I worked in a bookies, it happened pretty much when I started there. I came across this guy who'd not only had he been in the army, but he traveled around the world and he had lots of money in the bank. And of course, he's hooking up with different women who work there and all this type of thing. And that was after he was like only there for 3 months. Apparently, he'd already got into bed with 3 of them or something like that. And I'm just curious to know how many of these bullshitters are really out there, because I am aware that people lie in general, like on a day-to-day basis, whether it's little white lies or intentional ones, is kind of immaterial. Like, we just generally lie, and we are deceptive by nature, I would say. Not necessarily in a manipulative fashion, but or with malicious intent. It's just more, yeah, in the general. I mean, we kind of lie just to make the world understandable. We have to break it down into labels and whatnot, and essentially that's all nonsense, like, for the most part. So yeah, whilst I understand that as a kind of, as a way to mark the ground, let's say, there's other types of people out there who would just run with this nonsense. And so I'm just because the funnier thing is as well, like with these guys. So I mentioned the army dude, and the next one was in drama school, and he was another one who would apparently, he's very well traveled, like he's been all over the States, and he also has land in Bulgaria, and he's been with 1,000 women, he claimed, prostitutes, mind you, but yeah, 1,000 of them, which is just sad for a whole different array of reasons, but yeah, whatever. And yeah, it's always with them, it's always like this thing where they're ticking off these boxes, I find, of like, it's either financial or it's proprietal, a lot of the, so it's the accumulation of land, then it's investments, things like that. There's always some sort of like, oh, I've got 15k in Bitcoin and stuff like that, and it's all some thriving stock, because it's never a failing stock, let's put it that way, because all of these boasts are that they have to seem good and something enviable. So it's not going to be admitting to colossal failure. No, never. Failure's never mentioned, because it's only after a certain amount of time that you find out something about them, that they live in a bedsit, or they still live at home with their parents and they're pushing their mid-40s and things like that. It's there's always something that gives the game away, because you kind of think, like with that particular individual, if he has all of this money in crypto, or 75k in the bank, which is another one claimed recently, the most recent one, why the fuck are you here, would be my first question. If you've got that amount of money, you can get property in some pretty fucking nice places. Spain, Greece, Italy, not the cream of the crop by any means, but you can certainly find 1-bedroom flats where you'd think, surely it's better than working crappy night shifts or whatever. Like, I'm not talking about myself here, in case you wonder, but yeah, there's always a kind of something that contradicts it. I mean, in terms of the type of job, I'm just kind of giving the example of, like, if you've got, like, with the guy who was still living with his parents, I think at the time he was in his mid-30s, but yeah, you just think, what? So you did all of this stuff and you've, really made a success of yourself, then you think, well, why the hell are you living with your parents? Doesn't make sense, And that particular guy was the one who claimed he'd bedded 1,000 women, but he did admit that he was talking about prostitutes. And I was just thinking, if, say, they cost 100 quid a pop, you've spunked literally 100 grand on hoes. And again, you think that's just sad, if anything, because and it also adds to a lie. So say if you are talking about a body count kind of situation, then you'd realize that even that number is sort of bullshit. It needs an asterisk by it of like 85% of this number was paid for, so it kind of already adds to the lie scenario. And the problem with lies is they quickly snowball. So more often than not, I find these individuals find ways of being braggadocious, but in convenient fashion where it can't really be questioned. So if someone told me that they'd been all over Italy and, or just Europe in general, I'm not going to be able to disprove that because, for one, I don't know you, but also, like, what are you going to do? Show me the previous plane tickets or, receipts and things like that? Like, I would be the weirdo to request that just because I suspect you're lying. So they do often find these little kind of gaps in how they can lie about it because you wouldn't question it. And I suppose I think the one where they play the most dangerous game is if they claim to have slept with women who work there, because that again isn't something you're going to just tap a bitch on the shoulder about and start, interrogating her, saying like, "Oh, is this true? Have you actually bed that guy?" Because who does that? You might be able to do that if you actually get to know them a bit better, but for the most part, you probably know her as well as the guy claiming he slept with does. But yeah, they do find those little gaps, let's say, in how they can lie. And I'm just curious as to how many people have met these types, because the most recent one was just, and more often than not, they are quite amicable. Like, I don't think they are trying to be malicious or anything like that. It's just this weird tendency when men try to bond with each other. There's a type of guy you're going to come across, if you haven't already, as a young man at least, where they just seem, it's like they want to be admired, but at the same time be somewhat superior. So they kind of come out with all of these things as if like they've lived this really rich life. And I get why people do it, but men especially. I say people here because I think women might have more of a tendency to do it because they've been duped into the workplace like us. So there might be that societal pressure that exists where you kind of feel as if you should be in a certain position in life at a certain age or whatever. And I think men take that on a bit more because we do have to become a human, being, but it's more like we are human doings. So it's like you have to have these accolades ticked off if you want to seem as if you have any status at least. And a lot of these things can't really be proved. And with the most recent one, it was like he was even showing me the number of a girl he just claimed to chat up. And I was just like, for one thing, we don't really know why she's given you her number. It doesn't equate to, getting her in the sack just yet, my friend. It's more, she could have done that because, you and her were in a situation where she felt, oh, it's easier just to give him my number and then bump him off later down the road, or to keep it friendly. Like, you don't ever really know until it may or may not have happened. But I'm very curious. And I suppose I would want to look into like the way men bond. When I talked about tribute in the Left on Red collection and what inspired it, there was a theory about male bonding, and having had this recent experience with this particular individual, I was just kind of, I suppose it just added to that. I was just thinking, like, because I really don't think there is malicious intent with it. I don't think they're lying to try and dupe you necessarily. I think they are trying to just lie to create an image of themselves that they wish they had. And it is, it's kind of sad, I guess, overall. But yeah, I'll leave it there for this week. I think that's all I wanted to say about it. I do find it kind of funny. I get why men do it, but at the same time, it's like, it's almost as if they're looking at these self-help gurus and whatnot, and people who've thrived and who are celebrities and all that kind of stuff, and they want that so much they're willing to speak utter nonsense in order to just be perhaps seen that way. even if it is only for like 3 seconds before your first impressions start to fade, and then you start to question the things they've been telling you and things like that. Just for that little 15 seconds of being seen in the way you could have become, maybe. I don't know. But I would say it's funny in a way because it just, I think it marks a naivety as well, like as to the reality of life. As I've kind of begun this vid, is like, even with a lot of accumulation of things or accomplishments and stuff like that, what does it all amount to in the end? So to have a number of people out there so desperate to be seen in such a way, it's just a bit like, no one cares, man. That's the thing. And I do also find that people who have, you know, bedded a lot of women or whatever, or who are currently getting laid, or if they are thriving, they're too busy thriving to be going around bragging about it, or to be talking about who they've got into bed or what they would like and stuff like that. It's a bit like, just have some decorum. If that was the case, you would feel content enough in yourself not to be consistently bragging about it. So that's another thing where I feel like it kind of gives itself away too much. It's like the lady doth protest too much kind of thing. It's a bit like, kind of think you're talking out of your ass, son. But yeah, at the same time, they are quite entertaining, so I've got to give them that. Maybe they should just try their hand at fiction writing or something, because they'd probably be quite good at that. But yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it there for this week. Hopefully I'll see you soon. I will be back with the book club probably at the end of this month at some point. Going to be a bit busy until then, so yeah, watch this space for that. I'm going to do them a bit more sporadically and have it so basically you'll have ample time to read it. And yeah, maybe I'll think about doing other types of streams, maybe more chilled out ones or something. I don't know yet. It really depends. I need to get this thing going a bit more, so I'm not going to promise anything. So at the moment, I could be bullshitting you as well. See you soon.